It is week number 5, September 25th. Today is Wednesday. We are doing the fourth podcast in Big Ten this year. Um, a lot of big games last week, a lot of really big games coming up this week as well. And of course, we always have Flash Jordan in the podcast here talking about Big Ten. Welcome.
Yeah, glad to be back. Like you said, it was a great weekend of football. I can't wait to talk about it.
A lot of implications, a lot of playoff, a lot of Big Ten championship implications in the new format. We're going to do one quick thing every week from here on out, and we're going to do a Big Ten stat, like a leader stat over the past whenever. And today's first topic is solo tackles. A lot of times the Big Ten is known for its defense, and most people would say, yeah, the Big Ten is smash mouth football, or if that's even a thing now, we don't know. But if any conference is going to do it, it's probably going to be the Big Ten. So I'm going to ask Flash Jordan a couple questions today. So, first of all, the leaders right now in the Big Ten are Eric Gentry from USC with 18 solo tackles and Madrano from UCLA. And oftentimes, teams that don't do the greatest end up getting the most tackles because the defense is on the field the most. Um, so, that kind of skews your thinking when it comes to like great linebackers, great defensive ends, corners, safeties, things like that, because sometimes they're just not on the field as much. But
Yeah.
in the last 4 years, let's go from 2020. Yeah, let's do 2020 to 2023, starting with last year's, which this one's kind of obvious, but he did, and he's drafted, but I believe he's drafted. I don't know where he went. 2023.
Mike Sanders still?
It is Jay Higgins from Iowa.
Oh, wow.
79 solos. So that's roughly 8 a game or so, somewhere between 8 and 9. And I tell you, as a football player, to get maybe 4 or 5 solo tackles is a big deal, let alone that many. 2022,
Can I get a division?
the East.
Give me a second. East, 2022. Tommy Eichenberg, Ohio
That
State.
is absolutely correct with 77.
Yeah.
2021,
I'm going to need a division because I'm not going to
West.
just get these. Hold on. 2021, Big Ten West.
They
Um,
did very well. Not the best, but they did well
in that year,
last year, or 2 years ago, yeah.
in 2021.
hmm I guess it'd be 3 years ago.
There's a team in that conference. There's a team in that division who I'm like blanking on their existence.
Well, think probably the smallest field.
Patty Fisher,
Well, so okay,
or
so
he wasn't there, or Blake Gallagher.
that's close too. But Gallagher was there last year. It would be Chris Bergen
Oh gosh, it was
from Northwestern.
white Northwestern linebacker, whatever.
Yeah, 84. And then the
Wow,
COVID year, this person did go to the NFL, also from Northwestern.
Patty.
Patty Fisher. That is correct.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yep. So we've got Iowa, Ohio State, Northwestern, and Northwestern. And surprisingly enough, that 2020 Northwestern team, I think they finished top 10 at the end of the
Yeah,
rankings when everything was. But they won't see that for a while, I'm sure. Anyway,
probably not.
so let's talk last week for a second. Two big marquee games. You had the Illinois at Nebraska, and of course, everyone by now is familiar with what happened. But neither team dominated as far as score, but as far as field of play and the situation and the atmosphere, I'm going to say hats off to the Fighting Illini for really going into one of the most hostile environments, even though Nebraska hasn't been good for over a decade. But I'm going to say that Illinois really did it well here. Nebraska looked like they had the game, and their coaching staff and their freshman quarterback just didn't handle it.
No, they didn't, and unfortunately, they lost that game in the most Nebraska way possible, overthrowing a wide open tight end in the end zone, and then missing a field goal, and then coming back in overtime, letting Illinois score just like that, and then losing 19 yards, 4th and 29 on your first drive of overtime. It was just unbelievable how quickly it
Oh, it
collapsed. But
was it was first and 30, and then it was yeah. So I think the last play I saw them, they were on their own 42.
yeah,
That's it. That incredible. But anyway, that was a big game. So Nebraska's out of the top 25, and then the second game was USC at Michigan, where Michigan, I think, handled the game as well as they could, being surprised by a big time USC team. So hats off to Michigan for winning. But if it wouldn't have been at home, I don't believe they would have won. I think USC is the better neutral field team in this scenario.
I'd agree with that. And the stat that people are pointing out a lot this week as well. Michigan only threw for 32 yards, but they ran for 290.
The whole game,
Um,
32 yards.
yeah, that's a problem. Again, like you said, I would
That's
still
got to
pick
be a
USC to
worse than
win.
the Big Ten.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Wonder what the
I
record is.
USC outgained them in total yards in this game too. So I wouldn't be hanging my head too much if I was a USC fan. I think they did about as well as they're capable of, and that's not necessarily a great thing because they still haven't recruited all that well on the defensive end. But I think they've got a good coordinator now. I at least think their system is in place to be better. But they just need to get some better players on that side of the ball.
That loss was deflating to USC, though. I think. I mean, if I was a fan and you're brand new into the Big Ten and you go to Michigan your first time and lose, that hurts.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so moving on to this week, we've got some big games coming up, and part of the I guess the anticipation of this week is that there are six undefeated teams, and teams are starting to take buys, and it's full conference play now. There's really no more out of conference play. So game number one, this is in order of time, is Washington at Rutgers. I actually have Rutgers winning this one because Washington played Northwestern last week, and yes, they won by 3 scores. But keep in mind that Northwestern was literally on the 1 yard line 3 times, and the Washington defense pulled through. It's not, and we have yet to see if that's because Washington has a great defense, because Northwestern just doesn't have a good quarterback, and I mean, really running back. So they're depleted on the offensive side, and so I mean they only scored 30 versus Northwestern, and I'm gonna pick Rutgers to win this game.
Stick with you on Rutgers. I agree with that. Big win for Rutgers last week against Virginia Tech. And the other thing, too, with this game is Washington's going West Coast to East Coast completely um, on short rest as well. So, yeah, I think Rutgers is the play. I also like the under in this game. It's 44.5 right now. I'd be surprised if either team. Yeah, I'll ride with you on Rutgers in this one. Washington's having to go West Coast to East Coast. I think that's hard for any team to do, especially a Washington team that I don't think they're very good. Um, I just like the under in this game too. It's 44.5. I'd be shocked if both teams got over 20. And honestly, be shocked if any of them did. I'm predicting really a 16-9, 17-9 kind of win for Rutgers here. I mean, I think it's gonna be pretty ugly.
It could be a defensive game for sure. Absolutely. So we're both picking Rutgers. Minnesota at Michigan. I like Michigan in this one just because the Gophers laid an egg. I'm going to call this the one trap game of the week where I believe Minnesota can win because Michigan. Nah, I don't think I'm going to. I want to, but I think Michigan's got this one easy.
I think it's certainly possible Minnesota wins. I heard earlier this week describe them as a service academy offense, and they kind of are.
Well,
They're basically running the triple option. They're not going to throw the ball very much at all. So with that style of play, you kind of leave yourself open to extra upsets that a lot of other teams wouldn't have. And remember, they won that USC game despite USC throwing a pick six, and so they still were losing late in that game. They needed a miracle, and USC was able to move the ball. So definitely not sold on this Michigan team. I still think
They can't figure out their
they're
quarterback problem
ranked.
either.
Yeah, I understand Michigan is ranked 12th, but in my
I
opinion,
don't get that, but
they're in my opinion they're probably outside the top 20 right now.
I think they're giving
But I'll
credit.
take
I think they're giving credit to them because they are the Big Ten champs 2 years in a row, and they haven't lost a conference game in forever.
yeah, I'll take them to win, but again, it's not because I think they're good.
Okay. I'll say, yeah, we both agree on that. Maryland at Indiana. I've got the undefeated Hoosiers. What? Who would have thought we'd be saying undefeated Hoosiers in Week 5? But have they played anybody? No. Um, I'm going to go with Indiana here just because they're on a roll and Maryland is not.
I'll take the Hoosiers too, but I think in a really, really, really close game. I think Maryland is a team that can go in there and win. Honestly, I believe that. I think they have a better overall roster than Indiana does, but I will take the Hoosiers in a very, very close game. And,
Okay.
and, and keep in mind, even though Indiana hasn't played really anybody yet, the teams they have played against, they've crushed. So that's what you're supposed to do when you play bad teams. You're supposed to crush them, and they've been doing that so far. Not every team in the country, Michigan, can say that they've crushed the bad teams they play. So
No, Michigan's played every team close. I mean, and like we said last week, they only won by 10 points versus. Yeah. Okay, Nebraska at Purdue. This is the trap game upset that I originally picked for this week, and I'm saying Purdue with the win. Purdue with the win because Purdue has been known to play at home very well against stronger opponents. Nebraska has more momentum coming into this game than Purdue, I guess just because Nebraska's got a bigger fan base and a newer coach and a brand new quarterback. So I'm going with Purdue with the upset here. Your mic.
yeah, I'm
There
not
you
going
go.
to be as bold. Yeah, I got it. I'm not going to be as bold as you. I think this is a game that not only does Nebraska need to win, but they need to win by a lot to show that they are a good team. Because if they win this game 24-20, I got to tell you, I think Purdue is a bottom three team in the Big Ten this year. If
We'll see.
Nebraska doesn't crush Purdue, that's cause for major
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 concern on
concern.
Nebraska's part. Not anything to say about Purdue
Yeah,
because they're already there. But
no,
this is the trap game.
no.
But here's the thing. I've seen it for the last. I'm gonna say 5, 6 years since before the Scott Frost era. So maybe 7 or 8 years where Nebraska can do okay, not great, and then lose 4 or 5 games in a row versus teams they're supposed to beat. And I think this is going to be the start of it because with last week's loss to Illinois, it's going to prove to the world that and this whole organization reminds me so much of Colorado with Coach Prime, and they're just setting themselves up for failure. Until you become great, you can't talk about being great. That's my thing. So you're going Nebraska, okay?
Nebraska, yeah.
Alrighty then. I mean that is what it is. So let's go to let's see here. Wisconsin at USC. I've got USC crushing the entire dog poop, or at USC crushing Wisconsin Badgers like 54-12.
It could get ugly there. It really could. I Luke Fickle's struggles at Wisconsin are interesting. I certainly didn't anticipate him being this bad. So, or the teams being this bad. Now their quarterback did get hurt this year. I think that's part of why this is going to be another down year for him. But at the same time, I mean, even if he wasn't hurt, honestly, just as a program, I'm not really sure Wisconsin's where they need to be. And I think USC, like I mentioned earlier, they're turning a corner. So I think USC is going to win this game.
I'm gonna go 100% USC. The only pick that we have that's different right now is Purdue, Nebraska. Ohio State at Michigan State. This is a time where Buckeye fans can just, I mean, lick their chops and dig into a team that's really become in the last 15 years a non-official rival, and Michigan State does generally play better against better teams, but I think Ohio State's again going to crush Michigan State to the tune of 48 to 21. I'm not saying Michigan State's not going to score, but I think it's going to be a blowout from second quarter on.
I could see that being the score, honestly. I think Michigan State quarterback Aiden Childs, really young guy going in there, and he's thrown 7 interceptions in the first 4 games. That's not great.
Hmm.
I think again, this is a weird game. It's a night game. I could see him having a little bit more success early on in this game, but I think in the second half, Ohio State's going to put the hammer on him.
So interestingly enough, that's the first visiting team that you have picked to win.
Hmm, makes sense. It's Ohio State. No, I picked Nebraska.
Oh yeah, Nebraska at Purdue. My bad. Yep,
Yeah,
first visiting team I picked to win.
right.
Next game, marquee game of the week. I think
Yep.
across college football, it's in the top of the top 25 games. Of course, yeah, you could say every top 25 matchup is big. So
Well, Bama and Georgia are playing though. That's kind of
yeah,
big.
yeah, top marquee matchup. Not the biggest, but I mean in terms of wins and losses and implications for conference and playoffs, this is it. If Penn State loses this game to Illinois, that is bad for Penn State because I've said it this whole year that this is the year Penn State needs to come back and win. Franklin is not in the hot seat, but he's definitely in the hot seat for going to the championship game. Penn State is not a team that perennially goes to the championship game, and I figured they would be the team outside of Ohio State to get there, but Michigan has done it legally or illegally, but they have been there, and Penn State crawled back from a really crappy situation uh, back in the day with Paterno and the weirdo, and has I don't know how to describe it, but has very they've done it very well. They didn't have years where they were really bad. That program has been that program and continues that way, but they're not getting the recognition they deserve. So I have Penn State winning this game. I do believe it should be close. I don't know. What is the spread? Do you have any idea what the spread on this game is?
State, as of this moment, is favored by 19.
That is bad news for Illini fans. What do you?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, if that spread was closer to 10,
Maybe it's a
I'd be
good
more
game to
apt to.
bet on.
Every Illinois fan that I've talked to about this week says that there's no reason the spread should be that high, and they would bet their house on it if they could.
I would not
Um,
ever do that,
but the
but
problem is, the
especially
problem
with
is the people.
Illinois.
And here's the thing: the people in Vegas are smarter than we are. They have access to a lot more information and data than we do. And if their model spits that out, then there has to be something to it. And so, I think Illinois has little to no shot at winning this game. The only question mark I have for Penn State is just is their passing game real? I mean, we've seen them torch some MAC teams and they torched West Virginia, but are they going to be able to torch an Illinois team with a good
Right,
secondary? Because that's
right.
been the big question heading into the year. They're going to run the ball. So regardless, I think Penn State's going to win. I guess that would be my only question mark.
I guess that's a really good point that Illinois, well, and really to that measure, I guess Penn State, we've learned West Virginia is not that good. And they played really, I can't remember who, was it Bowling Green that they played and they didn't
Yeah,
do,
they were close.
and we know that Bowling Green has, this year has done really well. So I
Yeah,
don't know. Again, week five. But I got Penn State winning this game. So let me move this over here. We're going to delete Illinois. We both choose Penn State. Okay. So last game, Oregon versus UCLA. This is going to be there's going to be like a 48 hours show on how UCLA was the victim here, and Oregon was a homicide
yeah,
perp. I mean,
yeah.
clearly Oregon has to win this game by a huge margin.
And I think they will.
UCLA's bad, bad.
They're really, really, really bad.
I'm gonna guess that if I had to guess, the worst team in the Big Ten is gonna be UCLA this year. And that's so surprising because they
Them
they're
or Purdue?
I don't think so. I think Purdue's a little better. But all right, outside of the Big Ten, so well, let's go over the picks. We've got Rutgers, Michigan, Indiana winning, and then we're split on Purdue, Nebraska. We've got USC, Ohio State, Penn State, UCLA. The two games that I can see being trap games is the Penn State Illinois game. Of course, no one knows, and possibly the Rutgers game. But I mean, I still think that we're pretty close. I bet we're 8 out of 9.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Yeah, 7 out of 8. One, two, three,
yeah.
four, five. Yeah. So Northwestern off this week, but anyway, outside of the Big Ten, we've got Georgia, Alabama, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this concept. So there's a lot of sports professionals in the media that are predicting a conference might have 3 teams going to the playoffs. And the scenario here, I wonder how it would be if Georgia beats Alabama and then Alabama beats Georgia in the championship game. So they will both be 12-1. So those two will probably still be top 10. Then you go outside and let's say Texas is 12-1 also, or if Texas wins, so those 3 teams, do you believe that it's possible that Texas, Georgia, and Alabama can all be in the top 12 and one get automatic bid to the top 4 and then the other 2 get an at-large bid?
I absolutely believe that, and I even said before the season that I think the SEC could get 4 teams in to the playoff this year. As crazy as that sounds, the math does work out. Um, I could see initially I said it was going to be Missouri, but with the way that Missouri looks right now, I don't think they're going to be as good as I thought. So Tennessee would probably take their place instead. I could definitely see. I think 3 is guaranteed. I think
Ooh.
Texas, Alabama, Georgia, right now seem to be the
But
guaranteed
they'd have
spots.
to
Ole
be
Miss is right there
ranked.
too.
They would have to be ranked in the top 12 because,
Yeah,
or if a group of 5 team gets out of, yeah, I mean, I just don't see 3, let alone 4, but we'll see. I mean, I think that, yeah, so that's the other game that I'm going to be watching personally, Georgia, Alabama.
yeah. We'll see what happens, but I think you're going to be surprised with how much they end up getting in.
Yeah, great anticipation, great move on their part on creating a world of doubt and
Right,
anticipation. So, all right, that's it.
right.
It's week 5. We are done, and we will see you next week. Have a good one.